Okay, great. So today I'm here to talk about the power of business design and how to drive innovation and growth. So I'm a design lead for monetization at Netflix. I focus on acquisition and retention, how do we grow our users, how do we retain all of our users. And I'm a 3-time entrepreneur, which is kind of what helped me get into growth. Investor, advisor, mentor, public speaker, and I love sneakers. So if anybody wants to talk about sneakers and growth, you can look for me after that. But before I get started, quiz. Question number 1. In 2023, Netflix members watched how many hours of content? 183 billion hours, 500 billion hours, 995 million hours, or 90 billion? Just take a guess. B. The answer is A. 183 billion hours, which translates to 21 million years. That's how much content was consumed in 1 year on Netflix. Question 2. Netflix and chill is a real ice cream flavor. True or false? True? False? True. It is true. I haven't had it, but yes, it is a true one. It's by this brand, Ben & Jerry's. You should check it out. And question number 3. How old is Netflix? 30, 27, 21, or 25? See? The answer is B, 27. So Netflix is probably older than some of you that might be in this audience, which is so interesting. So no prizes, no free Netflix. I don't give free Netflix actually for working there, just so you know. So I can't give out free Netflix for the quiz, but I like to do that to kind of lighten up the mood. So let's get started. Business design. What is business design? I came up with my definition of business design, which is it applies design thinking principles to business strategy and innovation. Most of the time, the business team is maybe here, the design team is here, the engineering team is there. So you don't really get to see that kind of collaboration closely. But what business design does is it bridges that gap to where now, instead of design being maybe farther down the line, you move it all the way up to the top. So now you find your design team meeting with your business strategist and actually being a critical part of helping develop and come up with these solutions, which is new for businesses nowadays. There are many different approaches to business design / strategic thinking, but all businesses should start by asking themselves 4 key questions. What does our business do? Who are our customers? What do our customers want? And how can we best meet those needs? So pretty much every problem I'm faced with, these are the questions that I'm trying to answer from day one. So business design is not business development, though. I want to make that clear. When you think of what business development is, that's focused on growing revenue and forming partnerships. I focus on growing revenue as well, but in a different perspective than a business developer would. But business development also starts with understanding customers deeply and aligning their needs with the company's goals. Business design isn't just about making deals, it's about creating value, designing solutions that make a real impact on both users and the business. And I think that's the part that I love about being in business design and being in growth design is not just being able to have impact on you all and create value for users, but ultimately create value for the business, which at the end of the day is what all businesses want. They want to create revenue, they want to be successful. So feeling as if I and my team have a true impact on that makes me happy every day that I go to work. So business design is a much broader field that encompasses everything from developing new products and services to improving existing ones. I'd say business development is just a small part of business design. So I like this graphic to show the intersection of business design, business strategy, innovation, and design thinking. Business design kind of sits in this perfect little niche right in the middle of all three of those. And it takes a human-centered approach focused on deeply understanding the customer and the business needs. So we're always thinking about what do our customers need and where is the business trying to go. And now how do we come up with a solution that's innovative that combines both of those together? So that's how I'm thinking of my solutions every day when I'm at work. So key aspects of business design include integration of design and business, like I said before, bridging a gap between creative design and business strategy, customer-centric approach, always understanding your customer needs. You're gonna hear me say that a lot. Always understanding your customers, always talking to customers. Cross-functional collaboration is super important. I don't even really work with a lot of designers at Netflix. I work with a lot of my cross-functional partners, meaning my PMs and my data scientists and engineering. Of course, I have my design partners, but we're so cross-collaborative that I have probably about 10 to 12 different people on my team that are not even designers. But I love that because I think it allows us to have a very holistic perspective on problem solving, and it allows us to have a bunch of different perspectives and diversity when we're coming up with our solutions. And then lastly, another really important part is the prototyping and validation phase. We do so much prototyping because we have to make sure things are perfect before it gets in your TV. Before you see something, we want to try to cross every T, dot every I. So we're always prototyping, we're always validating, we're always experimenting, we're always doing research because we want to make sure that whenever we roll something out, it solves the problem that you need. Andy, a couple speakers before, spoke about how important brand is for a business. And as a brand like Netflix that has worked so hard to build this brand, we never want to jeopardize that. So we feel by having a very close relationship with our customers and developing a stellar product is the way to do that. So, business design mindsets. Start with customers and stakeholders. Think visually. For every idea that we have, we think huge. We go to the moon first, as opposed to keeping it here. We always want to go there and then we bring ourselves back because we want to make sure that we're being as innovative as we can be. But not to get super technical, but we embrace small data sets. We do a lot of research. So therefore, as soon as we come up with an idea, we're taking it to research to our users to make sure that our users understand where we're coming from, that they would want to use this is going to be helpful for them. Because what we don't want to do is build a feature that we spend millions of dollars on building, release it to the public doesn't like it, the public doesn't use it, and it works against us. So we do a lot of incremental steps before we even get to the fun stuff of designing, let alone developing a feature. But we also then combine that qualitative and that quantitative data. So this might be my most technical slide, to be honest. But the qualitative and the quantitative data is how we are so confident in what we're gonna do. So we do these surveys and we get millions and millions of responses, but sometimes that's not enough for us. So we do these qualitative where we really get to talk to the users and we show you products and we show you ideas and we hear your complaints, and we do this over and over and over again. And by the time we're finished with this quantitative and qualitative data, we are almost super confident that this is gonna work for you and work for the business. And then once again, like I said, we do the prototyping so we can learn about things. Before we even get to the engineering phase, we've done so much prototyping and put it in front of users so we can keep tweaking it and we can see how maybe we thought users were gonna use this section, but they're not. They're using this section instead. They didn't understand this, they didn't understand that. So there's a lot of iteration because we have a lot to lose, so we don't wanna lose, and that's why we do so much prototyping. And then lastly, we think in extremes. Netflix is a huge company with a lot of users and a lot of potential. So we want to dream big. We want to stay at the head of the innovation curve. And by doing that, you have to think in extremes. So some of you may know about design thinking, and business design follows a very similar process of design thinking where the first step is always empathize. Always empathize with your users, understand where they are, understand what their pain points are, and focus on solving those pain points. If you don't understand what your users need, I don't really know what you're developing at that moment, because you're developing something that should be a solution for your users. So if you haven't empathized with them, I think it's going to be very, very hard to do that. And then second, once you have empathized with them, now you can really define what the problem is and now move forward with the solution. We don't really like to assume anything at Netflix. We don't guess anything. Everything we do is very methodical, and we follow these processes so we can be as successful as possible. And then comes the fun part, which is ideate. And now we may take 2 weeks to ideate on something. I worked on a project that I'm going to show later that took 2 years worth of ideation to get right because it was that big of a product. And then prototyping, and lastly, testing. And testing, we do so much testing. We experiment in so many markets before we roll things out. And when we finally roll something out to you all, where when you cut on your TV and you see something, that's called being productized. But productization takes so long. There's so many checks and balances. There's so many steps, but it's so important for us. So you don't have to follow this 100%. You can bounce around, and you can go from empathizing straight to prototyping if you wanted, or you can get to the testing phase and realize there's more work to do, and you come back to the definition stage. So this is a cycle, but this is the organic cycle that you can use however you want. And one of the most important things is we're very, very user-centric. We spend, the minute somebody even comes up with an idea, your first questions are going to be user-centric focused from your peers. You're going to ask, who needs this? Why would they need this? Are you sure that they're going to use this? Have we tried this before? Are there competitors that have tried something like this that wasn't successful? How do we make sure we stay super in tune with you as a user, and every decision that we come up with focused on making sure that we're bringing value to you all? So we've made a conscious shift towards user centricity as a core principle in our business design. And it goes beyond just listening to customers, and it's about making sure that every product decision, every feature, and every interaction aligns with their needs, desires, and expectations. Understanding the user, super critical. Personalization is something that's one of the most important features that we have as Netflix, because users want to feel like this platform is for them. And how do we do that? By making sure that we have algorithms that can surface the content that you want to see based off your previous recommendations, or also making sure that we're showing you new content that may expose you to something that you didn't even know that you wanted to watch. But at the end of the day, it's always going up to making sure that we make you all happy and bring value to you all, because once you don't find value in a company anymore, you're going to stop paying for it. And that's not what we want. That's not what I want as the monetization team. I want all of you to keep paying. So we're always thinking about you all, just so you know that. So let's go a little deeper into how Netflix uses business design to stay ahead. So 1 billion. That's how many devices around the world have downloaded Netflix. And our software kit is called NRDP. And that's the Netflix Ready Device Platform. And that's what allows you to watch Netflix on your TV, to watch Netflix on your phone, to watch Netflix on your gaming system, to watch Netflix on your laptop. And this piece of software is so critical because it's able to run on so many different types of devices. When you think of a TV screen that may be as big as this one, to an Android device that may be as small as this, but the one thing that we can guarantee is you're always gonna have the same experience. A TV experience is not better than web. A web experience is not better than phone. They're all equal because we don't know where you're going to be visiting Netflix from. And we don't think that somebody on the TV should have a better experience than somebody on the phone. So we work so hard as a design team and the engineering team to make sure that NRDP is always running up to scale and making sure that the experience is equal, ubiquitous all across the board. We are in 190 different countries. There's only about, I think like 197 countries on the planet. So there's only about 7 countries that Netflix is not in. So what does that mean? We have a huge diversity of users. So when we're coming up with these solutions, we have to take all of you into consideration. And that's why I say user-centric design is so important. The way somebody uses Netflix in the United States versus the way somebody uses it in Romania versus the way somebody uses it in Australia is always very, very different. And we know this when we do our research. I did research one day, and if you look at a map, Australia and New Zealand look very, very close to each other. So you would think there's maybe some kind of similarities between the people, the cultures, or something like that. Day and night, completely separate. And that's why you need to do the research to talk to users to understand that. Because if you make the assumption that Australia and New Zealand use Netflix the same way, when you see them use it, you're going to be shocked. 62 languages. So we offer content on the platform in 62 different languages. Why is this important? Because 1, we want Netflix to be as diverse as possible. But 2, this is how we scale across the globe. If you aren't building a platform that's personalized where somebody can open it up wherever they are on the planet, that's why I said NRDP is so important. So if you have the device, well, software that works on any device, and then when that user opens it, they can customize it to the language that they want to read, that makes them feel like this platform is made for them. So that's going to make them want to use the platform even more. And the third thing I'll say is this is important for growth. If we want to continue to grow, we have to continue to make sure that we're making the platform available to users, and language is super critical. So this is just the content side. You can watch movies on Netflix in 62 different languages. Now, 37 languages is what the actual platform supports. So when you're watching Netflix on your TV, you can switch that through 37 languages, which would hopefully allow you to have the best experience possible. You can use English, you can use Romanian, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, and the list keeps going and keeps going. And we're proud of that because this is a sign of inclusivity. And inclusivity is super important when you're thinking about building a global product. If you want people all over the world to use your product, it has to be inclusive, and language is one of the critical ways that you do that. So I want to give you a quick peek into something. So what is this? This is an example of an internal font/language that we've created called Pseudoloc. And what it is it allows us to, so like if you think about the English language, it's one of the shortest languages. When you think of like Romanian, where you have different accents or different, there's no accents in the English alphabet. So because of that, when you start thinking about designing certain things, if you only worry about English, when you translate it into another language, it's gonna get broken. And the problem with that is, if you open up Netflix when you were here and you saw it this way, and when you open it up there and you see it another way, that's gonna question how you feel about the platform. You're gonna question the quality of it, and you're gonna think something is broken. So to avoid that, we created this Pseudoloc, which now allows us, every design we do, we can now translate all the language into Pseudoloc, which gives us a better understanding of how this may work if somebody is viewing it in Romanian, if somebody is using it in Spanish. And that's so critical for us because we don't want to find out that a design is broken once it's already gotten to the public. That's too late. That's how you end up trending negatively on Twitter. That's how people start saying, hey, Netflix is just only worried about English, and we don't want that. So this language that we've created is not a real language. This font that we created is super, super helpful to making sure that our designs show up for those 1 billion devices in those 190 countries perfectly every time. Like another example of that, of inclusive design, is we allow you per profile to switch your language to whichever language works for you. So I could have mine in English, somebody else could have theirs in German, somebody else could have theirs in Romanian, and those little small key features are so critical to why people continue to use Netflix. It feels like everywhere you go, the app has been updated and customized to make your experience personal for you. So all of this are examples of how you see business design being implemented, because these are things that the business needs to be successful, but these are also things that our customers need to find value in the platform. So now I want to walk through a case study real quick about what we call the non-member homepage on TV. So this is what you would see if you opened up Netflix on your TV for about 15 years. And it did wonders for us. It got us to over 100 million users. And it's very simple. If you see, it's one line of text, one button, well, two buttons, and what we call the VLV in the back, which is a grid of content. But as a designer on the monetization team, we realized that we weren't converting as many people as we could. We were getting tens of millions of visitors to this page, but we were seeing a drop off, and it was just so intense. It was like, what's going on? Why are people coming to the page, but they're not clicking the blue button, let alone we're not converting them to becoming paid subscribers? So that's my team's job, is to now innovation, figure out how do we solve that? How do we now take this page and convert more users? Because if we convert more users, that ultimately ends to being more revenue for the company. You do that through innovation. And here's an example, a walkthrough of how we actually did that. The first questions that we had to ask ourselves is, what should our pitch tell non-members? What is the page before that I showed you not telling members that's preventing them from wanting to sign up? That was the most critical question that we needed to answer first. And some of the things that we thought of is ease of use, service is flexible, you can binge watch, it's easy to sign up, easy payment. We're starting to try to figure out what are these key points that users need to know before they would sign up. And then once we figured that out, the next question is, how do we tell that story to users? So now that we know what you want to hear, how do we actually tell it to you?
Yeah.
We went through rounds and rounds of concepts to figure out. Some concepts were focused on showing the flexibility of the platform. Some concepts were focused on showing that you can watch Netflix with whoever you wanted to. We had content for everyone. But ultimately, we realized that some of these concepts wouldn't be scalable, they wouldn't be inclusive for us, and they wouldn't really hit the mark. We didn't want to just solve the problem, we wanted to solve the problem the right way. So what did we do? We ended up creating a new video. So we replaced the static image with a video. And what the video does is it answers all of the questions that you saw me saying users was having before. Those were the questions that were stopping people from signing up. People didn't know if it was content for them. They didn't know how much it cost. They didn't know if they could watch it on multiple devices. We couldn't answer all those questions in one static image. That's why we realized that maybe we should do a video. And we are a video streaming platform, so people probably would like to see video. But now, how do you build a video like this that scales for the numbers I said before? 190 countries, 37 languages, all across the world. What we did is each thumbnail you see in the back can be localized for wherever the user is watching this video from. So when you watch this in Romania, you would see mostly Romanian titles in the back that would also be translated, and this text would be translated in Romanian. But now this is for any of those 37 languages I told you across those 190 countries. So everybody almost gets a semi-custom personalized video. That's also, the thumbnails in the back are updated based off what's current in your area and what's new. So we didn't just need to build a new video, we needed to build a scalable, personalized video that was also updatable, which required a lot of business thought, it required a lot of design, and it required a lot of engineering. some of the questions that people were asking as well is, do you have something for me that I want to watch? So what we did is we made sure that the video goes through the different genres that we have, where some people are interested in action, some people are interested in stuff for their kids, some people are interested in docuseries. So we don't know what you want to watch, but we do know that you want to see the breadth of content. So that's why the video does it in two ways. We go through the genres, but we also have the different thumbnails in the back because we want you to get excited and hopefully you see a title on there that you want to watch. Another question that people had was, can I watch this on my phone and then continue on my TV? Can I start on my TV and continue on my phone? These seem like simple questions, but these literally were questions that were stopping millions of people from signing up. And they didn't want to read FAQs. They didn't want to call Netflix and ask. They felt we should have told them these answers the minute they got to the platform so that they can make the decision if they want to sign up for Netflix or not. So playing pause on all devices was a really, really important piece. And that's why we put that in there as well. And then another piece was people asking about contracts. They don't really want to sign up for a contract for a subscription service. So we also had to find a way to answer this question as well. And that's why this video worked so much better than a static image did, because it was able to go through all of the different questions and check all the boxes that by the time we actually launched this video, it ended up having like a 2.3% lift in conversion. And so for a company like Netflix that has that much traffic, that ended up being like about $30 million extra a year. And this video has been live for about 3 years now. So by putting all that time into this video, we've been able to help bring in almost $90 million extra dollars that we were leaving on the table because people were confused about the platform before. And last, one piece that's super important is once you finished watching the video, we really needed to figure out where do we take you next. We don't want to just have you watch the video and now you're stuck and you don't know what to do. So we tested a bunch of different pages and we landed on, as soon as the video was done, we move you to a simple page like this. That's not a lot of information, as you see, and you know this is all translatable into any of the 37 languages, but it still answers the simple questions that some people had that could possibly prevent them from signing up of how much could it cost, how much content do you have, and then can I cancel? So we went through all of those to get to this point, and we've had such a good conversion on this. But you know what? We're always innovating. And even though I love this, and this was one of my first biggest projects at Netflix, we're actually already in the process of updating this because we have to stay innovative. This worked for us for about 3 years. This might not work for us for the next 3 years. So we're already in the process of testing what this new experience could be like, because if this video answered all the questions of the current amount of users, it might not answer the questions of the next set of 100 million users that we want. So let me keep going. As you all know, we started as a DVD business where you could go to a website, you would pick the movie that you wanted, and we would actually physically mail you a DVD for you to watch at home. That was revolutionary for us because there was nothing like that before Netflix. You had to go into the store and actually pick up a video and buy it and bring it back home. And there was a lot of friction in there, and sometimes you would go to the store and maybe which one to see wasn't available. So the brilliance of Netflix is that they ship the DVDs to you, but then there came a point, once again, where we realized shipping the DVDs isn't the best experience anymore. The internet grew and streaming was the new way, where now we made it even easier. You don't even have to worry about picking a DVD and having it sent to you and send it back. Now you can just open up Netflix, you can just find something that you want to watch and watch immediately. So when you think of how Netflix has changed the game of entertainment over the last 20 years, it's amazing. And I'm not biased because I worked there. It's because I was actually a part of this and I remember all the friction points, and now I think of just how easy it is to use a platform like Netflix. And even up until last year, we actually deprecated this. Up until that last moment, we still had about 2 million people every month still ordering DVDs. And it was interesting because we realized that those were some of our older users that might not have updated to a smart TV. They didn't want to be bothered with all of that fancy stuff. And every title that was on DVD wasn't available on streaming. So there was still a little bit of exclusivity that you could get. But at the end of the day, we realized that the ROI for DVDs wasn't high enough to keep it. You got to think of the warehouse where you store the DVDs, the shipping, the people who you have to pay to manage the DVDs. It just wasn't worth this. It just wasn't worth it for us anymore, and that's going to be completely moved over to streaming. So, 100 million. It's a big number. I mean, it's a big number on the screen, but it's a big number in real life. But what is this 100 million? This is how many households we guesstimated was sharing the password. So you all probably have, well, maybe you've shared a password before, maybe you haven't shared a password before, but this was a really, really big issue for Netflix where one person would sign up for a Netflix account and they would give the password out. And when we first started as a business, this was a fabulous way for us to grow. And then even during the pandemic, we realized that it doesn't make sense for us to stop people sharing passwords because right now we're all locked in the house. This is how we're communicating. This is how we're getting our entertainment. So even though we knew password sharing was a problem, we still were so in tune with our customers that we waited to try to think about actually solving that. And that's that balance of, we knew the business needed to solve password sharing, but we also knew that the customers were in a very delicate spot right now. So instead of us just saying, hey, we're gonna stop the password sharing, we spent about 2+ years really talking to users and trying to figure out what's the best way to solve a problem as massive as this.
Exactly.
So what do? We tried so many different things. Like the first one, the circle, makes the people that work at Netflix laugh because we thought this was gonna be the answer. And when we went to research, it was funny. People hated the idea so bad. It's like painted in my memory of how much people was like, what? This idea is terrible. So as us being a business design focused company, growth design focused, practice design thinking, we went back to back to the drawing board. And we kept trying to come up with ideas to figure out how do we solve such a massive, unique problem. And what we realized is there wasn't one specific answer to password sharing. There wasn't one feature that was just gonna make it perfect for everybody because people shared passwords for different reasons. Some people shared passwords because in the area that they were in, Netflix is too expensive. They couldn't afford it. Some people shared passwords because their kid went off to college or I'm giving it to my mom. There were so many different reasons. And because there were so many different reasons, that means there wasn't gonna be one specific answer. So what we did is a ton of research and a ton of ideation, and we came up with all these other solutions that layer on top to help solve password sharing. We realized that some people travel a lot. So therefore, maybe they're not even sharing a password. They might have a summer home. They may be in hotels a lot. So they're not sharing their password. They're just logging in from different locations. So what did we do? We added the ability for you to watch while you travel. So you can tell us you're traveling. We know no issues with using the service. Extra member. Some people were worried about, how do I get a Netflix account from my mom? My mom is not technical. I don't want to spend that much time trying to do this for her. So we created an easy way for you to be able to keep your profile and keep your algorithm and get a Netflix account and have it set up within like 5 minutes, and the receiver doesn't have to do anything except open an email. Profile transfer. For the people who did want to get a new Netflix account, we allow you to take your profile with you wherever you want, because we know how some people spend years crafting their algorithm, and the last thing that they want to do is lose that. So we had to take that into consideration, just like we had to take the primary location of Some people have different homes. So if I have an account and I live in California where I live, and then if I have a summer home in another state, are you gonna disconnect me every time I go there? Like, how are you gonna handle that? Because that is a use case for users. And then lastly, the ability to manage and access devices. Some people had old boyfriends on their account that they didn't know how to get off the account. Some people had friends. Some people would let their friends use it. So one mom opened up her Netflix account and saw like 16 people logged in. And she didn't know who those people were because her son, who was in college, let his frat brothers all sign in. So we built another section that allows users to go in and manage their own account and give the control. So all of these different features together piled up is how we were able to solve password sharing. But we were only able to do that by being super user-centered. So, evolving customer expectations. I don't know if some of you know, but we're now in the game space and we have over 90 iOS and Android games live. And some people say, well, Netflix, why would you get into games? You have streaming. It's because business design, we're always evolving. We're trying to figure out what's best for the business and what's best for the users. And then when you think of the advantage that we have with the IP, which is intellectual property, we can make a Stranger Things game that another company couldn't make. We could make an Emily in Paris game that another company couldn't make. But we are not trying to be the next Sony or the next PlayStation or anything like that. We're just trying to continuously increase the value we bring to you all so you'll stay on the platform, as well as this is the way for us to grow and get the younger generation, because the younger generation very in the game. So if you don't have to pay anything extra to play these either. So now not only do you get thousands of titles to stream, you also get new video games to play. So stay tuned for that. We're always adding more. We're probably even over 100 games now. And competition. I mean, in 2007, I think there were maybe 4 or 5 streaming platforms. And now in 2024, this isn't even a small portion of them. We have a ton of competition. So how do we stay ahead of the competition? It's by always talking to you all, always understanding what's important to you. How do we advance the platform? How do we add new features? How do we make things that keep this distance that we have ahead of these users? Because look at this. This is a lot. And I've watched some of these as well. And these are good platforms. But, you know, Netflix is always trying to stay as innovative as possible. And that's why we also just got into live TV. So you're going to be able to now start to watch sports on Netflix and different live events as a way to just constantly keep adding the value. And the last thing I'll say, well, the last 2 things I'll say is the cross-collaborative culture is super important. We couldn't do all of this without us being an interconnected team. And there's so many different people that we have on our team. Super glad to have the resources that we have of engineers, designers, research, data science, program managers, globalization, finance, and all of these teams together is how we come up with all of the solutions that I showed them before. And last is, so how can you start applying business design in your company? I know some of you may work at startups, some of you may work at bigger companies, some of you may already do this, but I think these 5 are really usable options. Embrace design thinking across teams, build a culture of experimentation and research, measure design impact with business metrics, champion user-centric design making, and leverage design as a strategic asset. What does all of this actually mean? Bring the teams together. Bring design, engineering, product, business strategy, bring them all together and start solving these problems as a team as opposed to individual organizations. And the last slide is, design is not the cherry on the cake. It's the flour, the sugar, the eggs. It's the ingredients, the foundation of the cake. So for those of you that don't understand the value of design, I need you to really understand that we're your strategic partners and you should be working with us as closely as you can, because that's how you build these global, amazing products And if you want to reach out, hit me up on LinkedIn. If you want to ask some questions, if you want to connect, if you have some ideas, if you want some advisory, you want to talk about sneakers, whatever, let me know. Thank you. That's my time. I actually finished right on time. So I do have a Q&A session. If you have some questions for me, feel free to come through and ask. And thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, Bucharest.